G'day, hi, and welcome. All right, so I'm in my boat. I've been in my boat about 3 weeks now. It still looks like a boat in here. Very messy. But if it's the captain's mess, we'll let him clean it. Damn, I'm the captain. I still never get old. That joke never gets old for me. You guys, but yeah, you've said it about 100 times already. It's still funny. It's still funny. All right, I'm gonna change my. This is gonna be a totally different video from the regular gloom and doom and stuff I normally cover. Just because I want to get videos that are a variety of topics. You guys know me, I'm all over the map. I never just do one thing. But also stuff that I think is interesting, but also stuff that if you put a little bit of thought into or whatever, it can actually open up some great opportunities for you. And you'd say, going by the title of the video, which I don't know what I'm going to call it, it's going to be either the best nightwish singer of all time, the greatest female singer of all time, whatever, and stuff like that, or something. I don't know what best female metal singer. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. But right now I'm going to start this segment off with the nightwish singers, and there's 3 of them. The first one, I'm going to butcher her name. She's Finnish. Tarja Turin. I probably said it wrong. I heard people call her Tarja. I don't even. I don't know anybody that really knows how to pronounce her name properly. So, Tarja. It's Finnish, right? So, I'm not Finnish, so Finnish is a very tough language. Then the second one is Annette Olsen. At least that one is easier to pronounce. And then the last one is Floor Jansen, or Floor Jansen if you say it in English, I guess. And these are 3 nightwish singers, and we're gonna talk about their abilities, and not so much just who's my favorite. My favorite, my bias would be Tarja. I love the sound of her voice the most, but I'm actually as all the reaction videos that I've been watching, I have my floorgasms. Like, that woman is incredible. But Annette Olsen also brings something to the table too. So we're gonna start off. Why even talk about like pop culture, metal culture, whatever? And so that, like, what does that have to do with like my channel and stuff like that? Well, it does have something to do with it, considering I'm a metalhead myself. I've always been. But I like music of all genres, with the exception of probably rap and hip hop the most. And even at that, if it's really well done, I can appreciate it. But I won't go out of my way to listen to it. I tend to bounce between like hard rock, classic rock, modern metal, really jonesing on the symphonic metal. Just love the symphonic metal. Folk metal, love folk metal a lot. And then, of course, your classic metal stuff like Metallica and Slayer and stuff like that. Anthrax, I love those guys. Those guys were great. Pantera, all those 80s and 90s stuff. And then, of course, the godfather of metal is Black Sabbath, right? So I've always liked all that kind of stuff. And then I like my glam metals, stuff like that. Motley Crue, Cinderella, White Lion, Van Halen. I loved all that stuff too. There were so many good bands. You can't name them all, right? So I like all that stuff. But the symphonic metal is something completely different, because it's really progressive. But if you were to take away the distortion, you would really have classical opera mixed in with classical music, neoclassical music. That's really what you would have, right? If it was to all be acoustic. And it's not for everybody, but it takes a little to get into it. But once you get into it, you're just, you're right into it. So that brings me back to Nightwish. So years ago, my buddy and I, one of my roommates, he was searching for new music, and he found this lady called Annette. The band was just called Annette. And she had just joined a band called Nightwish. And there was another band that my he downloaded, and it was called Evanridge. And I listened to it. It was like operatic metal. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've heard. I've never heard metal like that before. So female singer, whatever. Evanescence was just coming out at the time. That was pretty cool. Whatever, because it was different, right? It was different. So at that point, I had heard some of Annette's original stuff, but I didn't quite know about Nightwish yet, right? So I'd heard the name. I'd probably heard a song or two in passing, but I didn't know about it, right? Then a couple of years ago, say about 5 years ago, I was just YouTubing, like trying to find new music, and it's really difficult because like the radio, when you listen to the radio, which I don't listen to the radio at all anymore because they're all classic rock channels, and it's like, okay, the songs I like, but it's like I've heard the Who a million times, I've heard Led Zeppelin a gazillion times, I've heard AC/DC a gazillion times. The first concert I ever went to was AC/DC and LA Guns. LA Guns opened for $10. Yeah, literally $10. This is back in 1987, 88, something like that, 86, whatever year it was. I know I'm getting old, but $10 to see AC/DC. What would it cost now with an arm and a leg and $10,000? I don't know. Concerts have gotten ridiculous, right? But I've seen lots, and I've seen Pantera and Skid Row and Furnace Face a bunch of times. I've seen quite a few cool bands. I saw Moist. I know that's everybody's favorite word, Moist. But there was a band called Moist. They were really good. I seen them in the bars, and they were just fantastic. Slick Toxic. What was the other guys? Sev Galley. They were really good. Saw most of them were in bars. Killer Dwarfs. I've seen them about 10 times. Amazing stage show, like Rush Dwarf was head spinning, spinning on his head, coming out on the stage with the little tricycle because he was a tiny little guy, right? And he'd jump into the crowd and crowd surf, and you'd throw him back on the stage, and you just roll him back on stage. He was something else to watch. Yeah, Pantera. That was my introduction to Pantera. Was seeing Diamond Darrell being moved on a roadie case, playing Walk with that. What's called the MT model guitar there, the Dean guitar, the purple. It was pretty cool. I didn't know if I liked them at first, but I was like, these guys were pretty fucking heavy. They were pretty cool, and they opened for Skid Row, and Killer Dwarfs opened for them. And so it was like everywhere I went, it was like Killer Dwarfs. I got to the point where every time I'd see them, the band would be like, hey, they'd point at me because like, yeah, you're always here. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're always here. Yeah, they were good. So anyway, that kind of metal is a different type of metal. So the symphonic metal, I hear it for the first time, and I'm just blown away by how like up and down it is. It's just, and time changes, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Even at the time, Dream Theater was progressive. Voivod, Dream Theater, those were like the really progressive bands at that time, and it was like you could get into it, but you had to kind of, it was even Rush was like this, where you had to kind of sit there and be ready for all these time changes because it was hard to get into. But once you got into it, then you start getting into the vibe of it, right? And because it's not a solid beat, it's never solid. But symphonic metal, it's into the bop 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 bop, that kind of thing of it, right? And that's a different. It's kind of like theater, like it's like theater. So getting back to these singers, okay, so you have three really. Each singer has a 3-octave or 3-octave plus range vocals. My old singer, she had a 3-octave range vocal. She was quite incredible. This is years ago, back in the 90s. And it's impressive to see somebody go from high to low like that. But most female singers sing on the high side. They always sing in the head voice or whatever, right? So with the Nightwish, you have basically 2 opera singers and a pop singer, right? So Annette Olson being, a lot of people see her as the underdog, but she still put out some really good songs. Amaranth, excellent song. Obviously, Bye Bye Beautiful is a freaking kick-ass tune, right? But we have to start off with the first Nightwish singer, the siren herself, Terja, right? So I get reintroduced to Nightwish by seeing the Phantom of the Opera live show that they did, and I am blown away because we used to do Phantom of the Opera, like the theme in our show too, but it was never like that. Like we were never that good, you know. Like, but I think about it, maybe if we would have stuck together all these years from the '90s to now, there's a good chance. I mean, Nightwish started in like late '90s, so they started when I started. You know, like when I, you know, or pretty much just when I was getting out of the bands. You know, like in the late '90s. I think my last band I was in, like band I was in, was in 1995, right? So these people started like they're probably a year or two older. I think she's the same age as me, so I think they're all the same age as us. Like that, my old band, or whatever. So it's just they made it, right? My band didn't go that far, so it lasted about a year and a half. That was one of the longest band I was in. We were playing like 4 nights a week, you know, at the height of it, anyway. So you go back then, and if you can find like old Nightwish stuff, like you can hear how much more unprogressed and raw it is. Like they don't have all the polishing they have now, right? But you could see where the foundation came from, and it starts with this lady with operatic vocals, who didn't even know if she was going to be able to be compatible with heavy metal. Like she didn't know. And I've seen some interviews with her and stuff like that. That's what she said. She like, like as an opera singer, you're not used to like blaring loud guitars and stuff. Now everybody wears these ear monitors or whatever, and it makes life a lot easier. But like these are like not pop singers that, like they do sing along with tracks. So I'm not going to say they don't use vocal processing or anything like that, but they are legitimate singers. They sing live. The mic is on. It's not lip syncing. And they probably, I would imagine they probably use auto tune as well to a degree, but you never hear it, because usually when a pop star uses auto tune, at some point their voice goes out enough where you can hear the wang in the voice there. I don't know what to call it, but it's like Cher did it with the auto tune, where do you believe in life after, that's the auto tune. And she probably just discovered it. Like she probably sang a really bad note and was like, "Oh, hey, that was a cool effect. So let's see if I can maximize that effect." So the auto tune, okay, a lot of these singers in pop use auto tune because most of these singers are untrained and are tone deaf. A lot of singers have no sense of rhythm and timing. They might have an okay voice. They're great at singing karaoke, but they sing by memory. They don't sing by sound, right? So that's totally different. Well, these singers, they're trained, so they're singing they can sing in tune. They might hit a bad note once every 10 shows. You know what I mean? So you watch the live performances, you'll almost enjoy the live performances of Nightwish even more than their videos, because of how spectacularly tight and good sounding they are. Like even when you get like bad cell phone video footage of these bands, some of these symphonic metal bands, they still sound like $1 million like on a phone like this. That's like $100 phone that you're watching right now. Hence why the poor picture quality. But they can even sound good on something that crappy. So can you imagine what it's like there? Like when they pan to the audience and you see like people crying in the audience and all this emotion, it's because it's so overwhelming. If you've never been to a live concert before, like you don't just hear it, you feel it, because the amplification is so loud that it's just like every guitar power chord just cuts right through you, and which is really cool. That's why you get into it so much, right? It envelops you. So imagine having the sound of somebody like Tarja, that haunting siren ghostly sound that she has, operatic sound that she has, cutting through you. Like, I mean, you'd be just like freaked out. It'd be like, this is awesome, right? So obviously most people tend to favor her, and she was kind of deemed irreplaceable. She became, in probably most people would agree, the most recognized metal queen out there, right? She was the bar to beat. I'm not saying there's no other female singers that can't match her or even surpass her at that time, but she really stood out. So she was the metal queen. So went Lee Aaron, okay, metal queen because she wrote the metal queen song, but the true metal queen was Tarja butcher the name, right? So that's the bar to set. So most pop female singers are down here. Most metal female singers are about here, and she's up here. Like she's just blowing people out of the water. Hence, Nightwish becomes one of the most popular heavy metal bands, to date. And they've been around for so many years, like almost everybody's heard of them. The politics of the band, I guess she left the band. There's a whole bunch of rumors of what the reasons were. The keyboard player, who I do, Thomas, or is it Thomas? Thomas, whatever his name is, the keyboard player, I can't pronounce the last name again, Finnish or whatever. He, I think, is the original architect of the band. Like, he's the guy that, okay, I'm putting this band together. He sought her out, and they worked together, and then next thing you know, you got all these fantastic musicians together. But he seems to be the center of the band, even though he doesn't get a lot of recognition, but he does a lot of the songwriting. I think he does most of it. And it's just like, it's kind of his band in a sense, but they all work as a band, right? And then, of course, you got Marco, who's just absolutely incredible. I find he never got a chance to, not got a chance, but I find they should have wrote more songs with him even having more vocals, because that guy is just freaking, like, what a metal voice, you know what I mean? Like his screams are just legendary, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's got this such a, like, he's kind of like a brighter sounding Ronnie James Dio, in a sense, like he's got like that kind of like power voice that Ronnie James Dio had, but just like on a higher timbre, you know what I mean? Like, it's, so the guy works well. And then, of course, having a real life siren singing right beside you, some people call her the Dark Princess, some people call her the Sorceress, other people refer to her as the siren. I always found it, like, if you were to think of the mystical, if you were to try to visualize, like in the days of the tall ships, a mythological siren, the sea creature siren, singing on the rock shores, what would they look like and what would they sound like? Tarja is it. Like, that's what they would sound like in my mind. If you wanted to know what they would sound like, that's it. And I've heard people refer to, if you want to compare the Nightwish singers, you would say Annette would be like Tinkerbell, not as an insult, but like, because she does have a very poppy, happy, kind of bubbly kind of voice most of the time. So she would have probably been really awesome in a pop band, like a pop rock band as well, because she was awesome, you know what I mean? And she's still singing, she's still out there, still, killing it, But she had she was almost too happy sounding for Nightwish, you know what I mean? She had that kind of like cutesy kind of woman voice, like kind of a bubbly voice, right? And but very, very good, So they refer to her as like Tinkerbell. They refer to Tarja as like the sorceress or the siren, and I could say that for sure. Now the last singer, which I'm going to hold off Floor for the last, so her name is Floor Jansen, spelled Jansen in English, but Jansen, I guess in I think she's Dutch or whatever. To refer to her, the only thing that comes to mind, and I think most people agree, is like, she literally is, if you were a Viking and you died in battle, okay, and you saw the Valkyries coming down in the chariots to come and get you, to take you to Valhalla singing, well, if you were to visualize what a Valkyrie would be, it would be her. The voice, the persona, it's Floor, you know what I mean? So anyway, so the first Nightwish singer, most people think that's the heyday of Nightwish, because of that haunting vocal and stuff like that. And then a lot of people who, like myself, I got introduced to Nightwish more with the Annette side of things than the Tarja side of things, with like some of the other songs like that she had. And I remember my buddy was actually typing and interacting with, like with the band or whatever, just like on the fan page, and she'd Annette at the time, and conversed back, which was really cool for them to do that, with their fans, right? And so anyway, she linked us to a whole bunch of their stuff, right? So it's okay, I heard a bit of it, like I say, in passing, but I more focused in on that other band, Evan Ridge, Evan Ridge, whatever it was called, and but it was just cool. So I figured it was like a smaller band, and I guess at that time it would have been, it would have been a smaller band at that time for sure. So, yeah, so you go from Tarja, who has all these incredible songs, Nemo, obviously the Phantom of the Opera, like that one, people just watch it just because, you watch every version of Phantom of the Opera just to see who can hit the note and who can't, right? And that's, I think, Phantom of the Opera, that note at the end is probably the note. Well, I think it's been dethroned for me, that a female singer has to hit to say that they're now like the top of the food chain for female singers, is that Phantom of the Opera note. I think it's, don't quote me what it is. It might be like a high C sharp or something. It's like the barrier for most women. Like if they can hit that note, then that's like the note. For a guy, I would say it's the Mikhailo Mjaviak from, probably butchered his name there, from Steelheart. She's Gone. That note that he does, that note is like, if a guy can sing that note, he can sing anything. You know what I mean? But I think there's a trick to it, and I've been trying for a year and a half or more to try to sing that song. That's how hard it is. So when I see a woman that can do Phantom of the Opera, and there's fairly amount of people that could sing it, but at that last note at the end, there's very few women that seem to be able to nail that note perfectly. Tarja does it, right? Tarja does it. I really don't know what to call her. But anyway, so many great songs. I Wish I Had an Angel, all that stuff. Like, and then of course, one of their most epic songs I think that they've ever written. Again, do they write a bad song? I don't know. Like, it's like with Nightwish, it's not like, okay, what's your favorite song? It's like, what's your favorite song at the moment, because the next song might be better. Like, it's either great or phenomenal or epic. Like, they just really write good songs, right? And of course, the most ultimate siren sounding song you could ever hear from Nightwish, I think, is Ghost Love Score. I think that is a masterpiece of a song. Doesn't matter which singer is singing it. Now, the underdog is, again, Annette. She can't do the haunting siren sound that Terrier does, right? So Ghost Love Score really is out of Annette's range. It really doesn't. She really can't. She does good at it, but she's too, like I say, she sounds too bright and happy, so to speak, on her vocals to be able to get that haunting sound. Where, like, it's like Annette will put you in a good mood, right? Because of her, cool sound, right? Tarja will haunt your soul for life with that song. And then Floor, we'll talk about Floor in a bit there. So we get from the Tarja stage to the Annette stage, which doesn't last very long. It's only a couple of years. But they do have quite a few albums out there. So that goes awry. And then, of course, they have to bring in the third Nightwish singer, which the Nightwish fans are like, okay, well, we're just starting to warm up to Annette and stuff like that. But, Tarja, everybody loves her first, right? She'll always be the original. And you can read it in comments. It's always original. And then this lady comes out of nowhere and meets up with the band. And I forget exactly how they all met up. It's an opera singer. She's an opera singer named Flora Jansen. And the keyboard player, what he was saying was whenever they changed singers, they never wanted to try to replace a previous singer. They wanted to always bring something new to the band. And you will see this in their Nightwish songs. Like, for example, the stuff now has a lot of what's called Julian pipes in it. They're like an Irish bagpipe. You start to hear that a lot more you know, from like I would say the late Annette era to the early Flora era, you start to hear these bagpipes in their songs a little bit more, and the songs gradually get more and more dramatic as they progress as a band, right? So this Flora lady comes in, and people, well, I don't know if I like her, whatever, and then these songs start coming out, these really hauntingly good songs. Um, and then of course the live shows come out, and then this Valkyrie takes the stage, and she gets on the stage, and it's just like there's no doubt this is probably the best female singer of all time, and that is a very bold statement to say. But why would somebody say something like that? Well, one great song that Annette really got popular for was "Storytime," right? Fantastic song, kind of a funny video, a little bit creepy, not really for kids, but really well done. Really kind of poppy and high energy and all that. And Annette did really good on it. Like, you know, like that was her song, one of her songs, you know. Anyway, so Storytime, excellent song. Well, this Valkyrie sings it, and it just like she like just extremely blows people. Like, you can't imagine what